So we're back. We're here in Puerto Rico at Lyft headquarters. We're here with Nick Leeson, founder and CEO of Lyft. In our first podcast, we interviewed Nick and he told us all about how he invented the eFoil and how he came up with the original product. Now, many years later, they're on their third iteration of the board. If you're interested in listening to the whole story of how the eFoil came about, be sure to check out our first podcast. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about the growth of Lyft as a company. We'll talk about the new boards. We'll talk about the new wings, all the new innovation that's coming from Lyft. And we'll also talk about the community, all the riders out there, all the affiliates. So yeah, let's get right into it. Nick, tell us a little bit what's new this year at Lyft.
It's been a lot of new stuff. We've been working really hard. I'd say this year's been a really big year for us. I mean, primarily we changed buildings. So we were working out of a facility that was maybe 4,000 square feet, and we moved into a facility that's 22,000 square feet, and we've already maxed it out. So we'll actually be getting some additional space to make it about 30 plus thousand feet for this coming year. So it's been big growth in the business, ramping up volume production, building out a team of people. We've brought on, additional help inside our business. We've built a whole lot of new product and improved the manufacturing line. So it's been intense. It's been a big year for us.
Yeah, I bet. And also overcoming, what's going on in the world with, inflation and parts and all that. So we'll talk a little bit more about it as well. But Nick, tell me what's new with the new board.
Yeah, so the Lyft 3 is what we've been shipping out this year, and a lot of new changes there. We changed all the board shapes. So we made a 5.9, a 5.4, a 4.9, and a 4.2. We changed the construction of the boards, the way that we manufacture them. We came out with a completely new wing lineup. Front wings and back wings, so just endless options and opportunities there. We changed up our propulsion unit on the propellers, the shrouds. Man, it was a whole new eFoil really in terms of like components and what people are going to feel when they're riding. Just a whole new experience, like kind of really honed in on the carve. Like what's that going to feel like through the water, really honed in on the materials, the construction, just really fine tuning. And we've got a lot of great accessories that I kind of presented to the public this year. We were really kind of hoping to get them out, but recognized it was better to push it back a little bit and fine tune and make sure it's perfected. So we'll be putting it out early this coming year.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. It's the Elite package, right? So it comes with a new remote and there's new bags. So we'll get into that in a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the new construction, because I saw in the video that you guys released, you took a hammer to the board. Yeah. That was crazy. Like, just goes to show how durable these things are. So we've reviewed the first generation board, the second generation board. We own both of those, so first gen and second gen. We don't have a third gen yet, but we'll be riding them here in Puerto Rico. And I've had a chance to ride a board as well, the third generation up in New Hampshire. So we'll talk about that. But tell me about the construction of these, because they're already pretty durable and you went even further to make them even more durable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our Lyft 2 is, they're pretty bomber, just the way that they're built and the materials that go into them. The Lyft 3, we changed things up. We're using what I call like a forged carbon fiber. So really high pressure, big tools, the light shimmers in town when they're pressing out a board. They're massive presses, that create these skins that we're building with. It's kind of a unique process that like you'll see it with like Lamborghini, and some of these elite car companies, Porsche, but it's a forged carbon fiber, so it's a different kind of weave. It's not like our traditional woven carbon fiber. That's actually more of like a matte carbon fiber. And what happens is you get carbon not only in the X and Y axis, but you get it in the Z axis. So it changes. It makes it really tough is what's interesting with it. And you can kind of form unique shapes and components with it, which is pretty cool. You'll also see it like on golf clubs, or even like the back, like the heel part of a snowboard binding and stuff like that. So these kind of intricate components, that's where that kind of carbon fiber in that process works well. Our boards are probably some of the larger components built in the world with that process. So it was a challenging approach and a daring approach for us to put that together. But it also allows us to scale our company and grow, into new product and to new markets. Because some of the things that you build with, you'll dial it in and it could be great, but it's very limited in how many you can produce. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's very limited on its repeatability in the manufacturing process. Because sometimes if you're like, I can build a beautiful part with my hands, right? And it's like a custom build, but then you have to build 1,000 of them or whatever the number is. It's not the same, mm-hmm. right? So like every time you're scaling up your business, you encounter these new challenges in the construction and how you're actually going to manufacture and deliver a quality product every time. So that was one of the great challenges for that board, and it's a really high-end materials with, like I said, the most high-end companies out there are onto it. Not a lot of people really know how to work with it, so it was a big engineering challenge that way, and we did it. It's a big step for the surfing industry.
Yeah, no, I rode the new board in New Hampshire with one of the affiliates. So Pete over at eFoil New Hampshire, we went up there and beautiful location that they have there right on Lake Winnipesaukee. Anyone who's on the East Coast, if you're up there up north, definitely go and check it out and go get a lesson or a ride with Pete. And I rode the new board, and that's one thing I noticed in the sun. I'm looking down and I can see the carbon fiber and the way you just described it. I've never seen this before. Usually when I see carbon fiber, it's the weaves with the squares. It looks like little squares, and this just looked way different. And I remember just looking down and, whoa, this is crazy. I have to think about it.
It's kind of like a camo carbon, and in all honesty, like some people love it, some people like the woven better, just kind of personal taste. But one of the things that we had to do too is just kind of dial in like the texture and the finish of it, right? So like that's another part of the process. It's like, oh shoot, like how are we going to how we finish these and paint them is different than what we used to do. So you just kind of have to keep fine tuning and make sure until you want your board to be really strong. You want it to be impressive in its performance, and you want it to look sexy, man.
Yeah, of course.
It's your baby. You want it to look good.
Yeah. And then you guys changed the sizes and also the shape of them as well. And so
right.
You went even smaller. So we have the 4.4 from last year. Now you made a 4.2.
Yeah, well, what's interesting about that board in particular, the Pro, was to build these boards the way that we're doing them, I had to build a prototype of the process. And the press that we were using at the time was quite limited in the size that you could build a board. So I said, well, I'm dying to have a 4.2 for myself, so I'm going to build a 4.2 prototype, quote unquote, and we'll prove out the process, but it's really going to be my board. And so we built a whole tool. I mean, it was the most expensive prototype out there. And then we built a couple, and I loved it. And I go, oh, I love it, but I don't know how everybody else is going to kind of perceive this. And I passed it around my peers, including my girl and people in the shop and my dad, and everybody loved it. They loved it more than they didn't want to go back to the old Pro board. And I was like, I don't know, it's a small board, but they're like, yeah, but it's easier to ride. And it's like just so loose and free under your feet. And I was like, well, you don't think that we should bump up the size a little bit for production? They were like, nope. This is it. This is the one. Like, why are you going to change this? Perfect. It's great. I'm like, all right. So the way we went with 4.2 is the Pro size. It's a small board and it's not for everybody. But man, it doesn't take that long to really kind of dominate. It's just kind of that initial the breakthrough to get to your feet. And then when you're up flying, it feels a lot more like our surfing foils, which are really free, Yeah,
there's something about riding the smaller boards. What I like to say is once I've ridden the smaller boards, I don't want to go back to the bigger ones.
That's
and
right.
It's kind of interesting. There's this aspect of it where the bigger the board, the more it almost like you feel less of the flying experience. I think it's because the nose is there's more nose to it. And with the smaller boards, I think you can see, because you can see the water, you're just getting a different effect. It's like everything is just more pronounced, it feels like, on a smaller board. And then the carving too is incredible.
Yeah, and it's these subtle differences, right, that make a huge impression on the ride, and we learn a lot from going out and surfing waves on our boards. So, like, what you're really honing in on is like moment of inertia, and that's like the resistance to change and rotation, right? So as you shorten up the nose, like as you shorten up the length of the board, you're going to find that even up in the air, like that board is a lot easier to rotate into a turn because you have less swing weight out in front of you, right? So you feel a lot more in control. You feel a lot more free in your turn when you have a shorter board. But with the shorter board, we don't want to make it difficult for people on the water, like feeling like, oh, this is too advanced for them. So we kept the volume in there, so it floats through the same. And what I did is I worked a lot on the release points, the rails, and the tail of the board. So it actually, they ride. I feel it was a big improvement from our previous boards. Really keeps the board kind of flat and directional when you're riding down in the water. And so like where you plant your feet is kind of where your feet stay. You're not moving them too much. And then up in the air, you just feel like really locked in control, and you have this really loose turn. So we kept the volume, we made it a little shorter, and we worked on we fine-tuned the edges and the rails and the way that it touches down. And really what we did was, because we had a lot of that in our version 1 of the board. And then we kind of made some pretty big changes in the version 2. And there was a lot of beautiful things about the version 2, or Lift 2. But there was some things that we lost in 1. And then there was also some futuristic ideas of like, hey, where we want to take it. So we kind of combined the things that we really liked from the first 2 iterations and added in the things where do we want to go with this? And that's where we came in with the Lift 3 in terms of the board design.
Got it. And you guys also made some improvements to the prop as well, right?
Oh, we made improvements across the board. Yeah. So the propeller, I mean, it's still the fundamentally, the propeller itself was the same as the Lift 2, but we made some fine tuning on like the edges and some of the hydrodynamics and like the acoustics of it. So like for me, I really want it to be a quiet ride. You just want to be like with yourself. And so we really kind of dug in deep actually on prop designs. And a lot of that stuff leading into the elite components as well, but like just our standard propeller is pretty badass, I have to say. Yeah. And we're always refining it to make it better. And
you guys also developed this new way of quickly swapping out the props, right? And I think you have one of these props here.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of our elite system. It's pretty cool. Basically, we have these different propellers, and maybe people haven't yet explored like the variations in props and shroud or no shroud, but it makes a huge difference on the ride. You'd be really amazed if you haven't played with that, like it makes a big difference. And sometimes it's like, I don't want to grab a tool and like take this thing off, right? So like we came up with this really cool mechanical system where you can just push these buttons and click on your shroud, take it off, replace it with the tail cone, put on like your fixed blade prop, or take it off and put on your folding prop. So it's like just moments, and like maybe it doesn't sound like much, but when you actually use it and like you're on the beach and you're exploring these different options and like swapping things out, it's so slick and so fast and so easy. That it really makes it fun to explore those different combinations. And like I said, it changes up the ride like dramatically. Mm-hmm. So pretty cool on that aspect, and kind of a little bit of insight into the future of where things are going. But we worked on like this particular design, like in the mechanical design, we worked on the hydrodynamics. So it's actually, we changed the blade design, we changed the hub design. It reduces drag, and it feels different. It surfs different under the water. So like, again, when you go into that carve and you're carving that turn, you're like, wow, something feels good here. Well, it's those little fine details under the water that just add up to be a little bit of magic,
Yeah, it's the little things that add up. And then also, you guys also made a whole new set of wings, right? So you're talking about the being able to swap components out. That's one thing I love about my eFoil and the two boards that we have, is that I'll switch the wings out for myself and also for whether you're a beginner or maybe a more advanced, depending on your weight as well.
Yeah.
So I like to mix and match. We already have a couple different wings. I'll probably buy some more wings because there's some new ones like the high aspect wings that I got a chance to try, and now I need to have one. So tell me a little bit more about these new wing designs.
Yeah, so I totally revamped the wing lineup. Like I said, I love surfing, and we learn a lot when we're out surfing, and I can kind of apply it into our electric world. And but I revamped the lineup, and so we basically have our surf series and then our high aspect series. And so the surf series is exactly as it sounds, right? So it's like it's the right aspect ratio, the right surface area, the right camber for like a perfect carve. And then we have our high aspect, which are just higher aspect, wider wings, more glider wings that are built for efficiency and longer glide. So probably more prominent in the surfing side of things, but really efficient. Like if you want to go the distance on an eFoil, and like you want to like rig it all up, like talking about exchanging components, like taking off the prop guard and putting on this propeller and then high aspect wings, like, man, that is a long ride. Like it just reduces drag considerably, and you're going to go for a long time. Yeah,
like up to 2 hours. I think people are doing crazy runs on these, and in the community you see it. People are posting these rides that they're doing. It's crazy. 2 hours of riding the eFoil. I think after an hour, my legs are kind of giving up and I need a break.
Yeah, it's not too often that I run down a battery all the way. To be honest, it's a lot. It's a generous battery with these improvements, and like you can really share the product around and get a bunch of different people riding. It's a good amount of energy, and then like all these components, it just got more efficient. And the wings, the wings, if you're on a Lift 2 or you're on the old stuff, which is basically like the one-piece designs or the Surf V1s, going over to the Surf V2s is a huge improvement for your existing eFoil. I highly recommend like the 200 Surf V2 or the 150 Surf V2. Those are awesome wings that'll just completely transform your ride. You're gonna love them. And I put a lot of work and a lot of heart into the fine tuning of those wings. So that was probably like my most exciting upgrade in the whole package there.
Yeah, and you've been designing wings for a long time, so this is your baby, making wings.
Yeah, I feel like that's the only thing I'm good at these days. No, I mean I definitely hone in, like wing design that's my thing. That's what I like the most, because man, you're surfing on that, and so I love geeking out with the wings, and still going.
Yeah, and you guys made some new masts, right? There's 2 sizes now.
Yeah, so we've always had. I mean, if you look in my closet, I got a stack of different components. I think we're offering 2 components, 2 sizes, because our customer base is growing too, and people are they're getting better at the sport. And so I have to kind of unleash some of the stuff from my closet into theirs. But we have, the standard mast is 28 inches, and that's still like my go-to eFoil mast. It's just awesome for most conditions. And then you have the longer 32-inch mast, which is really sweet. So I'd say pros and cons, like the 32-inch is a little bit longer, so a little more clearance underwater. It might kind of push up the nose a little bit more when you're getting going. But when you're up flying, it's actually a really locked in ride because you have a higher moment of inertia, and it gives you more clearance off the water, and it'll allow you to bank like a deeper turn because the wings are still down deep in the water. So like I love using that mast going out in like really wild conditions too, like kind of when it's really bumpy out. It's just more clearance over the surf,
over the waves.
Yeah, and making just some big long turns. That mast is really sweet. So again, if you're on a 28-inch mast and you've been riding that for a long time and you're like, oh, I want to try something different, let's try the new mast.
Hey everyone, just a quick break. We wanted to let you know about a special art print that we just released. We teamed up with a talented designer, Trevor Humphreys, to produce a limited edition 1 of 30 art print of 2 eFoil riders riding in a beautiful setting. They are printed on high-quality paper using pigment-based inks to create a beautiful print that looks hand-painted. Each piece is also numbered and signed by the artist Trev. They make the perfect wall art or gift for all eFoil lovers. So, if you're interested in it, check out our online store at shop.techwewant.com. Remember, we're not sponsored by Lyft or paid by them to make this content, so it's also a great way to support our channel. All right, now back to the podcast. Yeah, it's awesome. There's so many more options now that you guys have between the masts and the wings and the props. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is what's great about the eFoil, and even just foiling in general. The wings are interchangeable between the eFoil and the regular foil. So, we have a friend who just ordered an eFoil, Lift, and I actually convinced him to go with Lift for a number of different reasons, mainly because it's, the quality and just everything about the product and the company too. You're buying into something that's well made, and you've got a whole team of great people that'll support you along the way. But also the fact that he's foiling, and so you can use the wings on both, right? So that's a huge bonus. And then you guys also made this new Lift Elite. But tell us a little bit more about what's in that package. What are the components within that?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest upgrades there are the hand controller, the propulsion units, and then some of the accessories, the bags, the carrying cases and stuff. So the biggest one is the hand controller, and we went all out on this hand controller. So I think, our existing hand controller is awesome. Actually, I love our hand controller because it's like the ergonomics are really dialed in. And the throttle control is really nice, and I don't think people give enough attention to throttle control, and like how much control that gives you on the board. Mm. And it's something that not to name names, but the other brands just totally did not figure that out. Right. You have no throttle control, it's really hard. And it's so key, for the ride. And so that's one of the things that we really honed in on from the get-go. Our existing hand controller is bomber. It's awesome. But I think people were looking for maybe a little more luxury, in their controller. So we're like, well, all right, let's give them some more luxury. Let's build the most badass hand controller in the world, and just all the bells and whistles. And so I grouped up with the team that they're really really well versed in building handheld devices to do a lot of stuff for the military, crazy military projects. And so there's a lot of ideology in that's of what it should do, what it has to do, what it can't do, you know what I mean? And we put it into our hand controller, and then we really just went over and over and over again on the ergonomics and the shape of it. So it's got a really good, sexy feel to it. Mm-hmm. We went carbon fiber on the exterior, same carbon fiber that we're using in our boards.
I can see that.
Yep, is on the exterior of the hand controller, so it's really slick. The triggers, again, I'm a freak on the throttle control. The trigger's really cool because it's a milled titanium, bells and whistles, and it's fully adjustable like Olympic pistol triggers. So if you look at Olympic pistols, they have fully adjustable triggers there. You can slide it forward and back and down and sideways. So you have 3-dimensional. You can set it exactly where you want it for your finger. So
if you have a smaller hand or a larger hand, you can really just fine tune it perfectly for you.
That's right. Yep, you can put it in the perfect position, and it solves all those emails of I just wish that my I hold it here, I like it there. Okay, well here you have
Yeah, the first controller is really good. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things that when we first reviewed the eFoil, that's one thing we actually did give you guys a lot of credit for, because we had seen it in electric skateboards, and the resolution of the throttle, right, mm-hmm. is very important. That's one thing that we saw in other products, and then when we reviewed the eFoil, we knew that you guys had figured out the remote controller very well. Which is why when you said you made a new controller, I was like, okay, that you guys are going way overboard here. But now I understand, seeing it, why you guys did this, because there's features in here that people are definitely going to want.
Yeah, and there's more info on the screen. So we did a colored display, and it gives you GPS speeds and more stats on the board, but in a cool way where you know, sometimes when you're foiling, like you just want a quick glimpse of what's going on. You're not going to be like, you know, staring deep into the controller while you're out foiling. You want a quick look at it. And so we've got the stats really spaced out really large. And so like easy to select through and just kind of bring up the page that's like most relevant to you. And so we worked a lot on that too. I think people are going to like it a lot. I think it's pretty cool. Make it just kind of fun and informative when you're like, it's just kind of bridging the gap of like, you know, being in tune with your gear, with your item and your ride. And so I think that part's pretty cool. And again, you know, if you're like, I'm just going out and I just want to go ride and whatever, man, our original hand controller, that's where it's at. Yeah. You know, throw it in the back of the truck. I don't care. You know, like awesome. And then this guy's like, it's just that piece. Like I actually have this on my desk and like just all day, like, you know, I can't help myself. Like, but you gravitate towards it and you put your hand on it and you're like, oh, that feels good.
You're using it as a fidget spinner, almost like sitting there just.
Yeah, for sure. For some reason, my right arm's getting stronger than my left ear. Just like, you know, with the trigger throttle control, but it's pretty cool. And there's some other nifty, you know, IP in there that's pretty cool just on the way that like it controls power usage. So it's fully rechargeable. But not like you're going to have to recharge it all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm like, guys, I do not want to recharge my hand controller all the time. Like it should last a good chunk of time and then I'll recharge it, you know? Like you don't want it to be annoying that way.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of the cool nifty features to go in the hand controller. So I'd say that's probably the most exciting one. A really neat upgrade for people that have existing eFoils, you know, because one of the promises too was when people bought into the eFoils, like you're buying into an architecture, you're buying into a family. You're not going to necessarily have to buy an eFoil every time. You can buy individual components that interest you. So wings or hand controller or a propeller, you know. And getting in, I mean, we spoke about the prop. On the Elite prop, it's pretty cool. We've got the shroud and the tail cone. The tail cone is basically, it's that center hub piece of the shroud. Mm-hmm. So it replaces, if you take off the shroud, which is that protective cover around, you can put in a tail cone as that space filler that bridges the gap between the motor to the propeller. Now, I will say for the public that if you ride an open prop, it is more dangerous because you have a propeller that is exposed. So I would recommend it for expert riders only at your own risk. But it is a badass ride because you essentially reduce a lot of drag down under the water. Like you're removing a full wing essentially from the ride, and you're allowing a free flow through the propeller. And what it does is it just reduces a lot of drag, and it feels like a completely new eFoil. Yeah. I mean, it's night and day.
So you can carve even better. So we actually ride our boards with the prop guards, and a couple reasons for that. One is safety. We do have a lot of friends and family who ride, and we give people, you know, lessons and, you know, first time riders, and you know, we like to keep them on there. The other thing I've noticed too is that it actually does add some stability. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When we ride it without it feels way different. Like I feel like when I'm riding your boards without the prop guards, I'm like, wow, I've got to, you know, hone in on this a little bit.
Yeah, no, drag is stability. You know what I mean? So like it's something that you need to get used to if you're looking for that next level. Like I said, you should be an expert rider and you should be like really well versed on the safety of the product and like how you fall off the product, and you shouldn't be lending it to your friends that way if it's like an open prop, because you can get injured. Yeah. And nobody wants to see injuries. But you know, there's those of us that are really concerned about, and there's those of us that like take that extra risk for performance. So it's always a give and take. We're not limiting people on the option of having fun. So we have that optionality for people. We have the different propellers, and if you're in any kind of surf, be it behind a boat or in the ocean, and you haven't ridden the folding prop, man, that's a blast. It's pretty awesome. So, yeah, I like it a lot, especially just like a small waist high wave. The thing surfs, so it's just a really cool feeling. So we have that in our Elite package. I also put together some pretty nifty bags. I kind of partnered up with a company that's like building kind of like a new generation surfboard bag. You'll see like Kelly Slater has a custom bag by them that he uses on the Pro Tour, and so they're just kind of up and coming with these new materials. And we added some interchangeable like wheels. You can take them on or off. So if you're like, for example, you're at Lake Powell and you got to carry your board from the parking lot down through the dock on, pulling it with your one wheel, I got you covered with that, It
That's
helps
awesome.
a lot. Yeah.
The original bags are already really good. Like that's one thing we loved. When you buy the eFoil, you're getting, it includes all the bags, right? These standard bags, which is great. And the bags are awesome. We've had them for years now, and they're great. And now you just took it another level and made these new bags. And we actually took a look at them here at the office, and they're incredible. Like, I definitely need to get one because, like you said, for those situations where you got to go across a parking lot, or I've seen in the community, there's people making their own little carts and kind of different ways that they can carry their boards, which is great. But the fact that you guys have this ability to offer, again, another upgrade, that as someone that has both the first generation and second generation, I can buy one of these, and have that's awesome.
Yeah. And what's cool about the bags too, is they actually break down into individual components and fold up really tight. So, like I've got a couple of travel surfboard bags like stuffed around my house where I'm like, where am I going to put this thing? They're just so bulky. And so these are actually really neat because they fold up kind of like origami, and you can just put them in a tight space, if you're not using them for whatever reason.
That's always great.
Yeah.
This is what sets you guys apart from the rest of the competitors. I think we should talk about the eFoil, landscape a little bit, because since we last spoke and did the last podcast, there's been new companies that have come, into the industry. And there's some that are doing it well, and there's others that are doing it not so well. And we personally have seen examples of that. We've seen online examples of companies like Waydo. We've seen other companies like GetFoil who are just new, and to be honest, we're not impressed at all. And it's to the point where it's actually kind of concerning, right? Because they're taking a product that, you guys have invented, and they're basically making these knockoff boards, and they're still charging a lot of money. We're not talking about $1,000 here. We're talking about $6, $7, $8,000 for these boards. And I gotta say to the world that, you need to be really careful when you're shopping for these boards, because they're all built, differently, right? From the outside, they'll spend time with marketing and making it look really cool, but there's a lot that goes into this. So Nick, tell me a little bit about kind of what's going on here in the industry and what some of these companies are doing.
In all fairness, you probably know more than I do. You're out there in the world more than I am, and I'm in here in my cave, honed in on our product. My number one focus is building a great product, the best that I can do for our customers. But I definitely see, I would actually argue with you and say that the landscape hasn't changed too much since the last time that we spoke. Maybe if you're looking online, you'll go, well, you're talking about there's so many companies out there. But when you look at reality, there's not. There's us, there's, Flightboard, which is an admirable competitor. And I feel like they're doing a good job to build up the market in the right way. And so we compete. But I think the way there's some mutual respect for each other out there. But yeah, when you get into some of these other companies like Waydo, or get foiled or whatever it is, but it's I don't know. It's cool. On a positive note, man, look at we created a product, and like. We're building a market, like success, like I'm stoked on that. At the end of the day, like, I'm super stoked to be like, oh yeah, like all these guys are like, they're inspired to chase after us. Cool. Yeah. All right. And like we're building a marketplace and we're putting it out there, but there's another part of it too. It's like, well, but if you put out a really bad product, right, and you charge a lot of money for it, or you make empty promises to your public, then it kind of hurts the market. And it's kind of like, well, and we put a lot of effort into that. In fact, that's been our biggest effort, is creating a marketplace, and like convincing people that this is a great product. This is a lot of fun. This is a good investment. This is what it costs, to do it well. And so like, yeah, you're always going to have like those Chinese companies or somebody that wants to take a shortcut, and they're like, oh man, this is too expensive. I'm going to cut it in half. Well, shoot, maybe you can, but you got to do it right. You really got to you got to do it right. And you can't make these empty promises to people because they're going to get burned and they're going to be scarred. And I would say, the other thing about it too, it's so interesting is that like, like it's a new age where like people just put something on the internet and claim it as real and be like, you know, this is coming in 2 months, like pre-order now. We don't even know what the price tag is yet. It's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, dude, what are you doing? Like, and it's laughable too. It's just, and I, you know what? I've been guilty of it myself, right? Because like when we first launched our product, when I thought I was ready for the market, I was so not ready for the market. You know what I mean? Like I was just learning. I was like, oh shit, like there's a lot more to this. But you'd think that somebody that's coming in behind would kind of learn those, or, you know, take advantage of your hard lessons learned and figure out like, hey guys, you know, we really got to like take our time on this. Because I'll tell you, man, we've been building these things for years and we're still fine tuning our product, you know, and just really honing in every day is just honing in that product and like making it better, making it reliable, like being able to produce in quantities. So like when these companies come out and say like, oh yeah, we're just going to distribute to the masses at this great price and like pre-order now and get it. It's like, who's falling for this stuff? You know, like it's so far from reality.
Yeah. The sad part is that people are, because they want to save a little bit of money, right? That's innate in humans, right?
Totally get it. Yeah. Understood.
And so people want to save some money and they look at these other products and, you know, people want to see Lyft versus another company. And
sure. Get it.
We'll tell you guys, we have the version 1, we have the version 2, we've seen the version 3. You go back and listen to our first podcast, you know, look at the little details. That's what matters. You can't cut corners and expect that cutting corners, you can make a superior product. It just doesn't happen, right? So we've seen it firsthand. And when we sit down with Nick and listen to everything that goes into this, that's when you start realizing it's all in the little details that matter. It's the attention to detail. It's what the amount of work that Lyft puts into it, right? And this is what you pay for, right? When you're getting a Lyft board, you know that you're getting the top quality. The V3 is the best eFoil on the market, hands down, right? There's no other board out there that can compete with what you guys have built and what you guys offer and all these upgrades and all the new controller. The fact that you have all these options, that you're getting a great product just with the base, you know, package, and then you have the ability to upgrade that even more and go crazy with, you know, what you want to do. And you can start small and then, you know, upgrade your quiver and get more wings and another controller, right? And another propeller. And that's amazing. These other companies, they're missing key features. Some of these boards don't even have the most important things. They don't come with bags. They don't even come, one of the boards doesn't come with handles. You can't even carry this board into the water. I mean, you look at this and it's like laughable. Like you shouldn't have to carry your eFoil with 2 people into the water. And when you look at these companies and you say, oh, what are you guys going to do? And they're giving you the runaround. Oh, you can add that later. No, you can't, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, and kind of ending it on a positive note there, I think it's really cool that there's a growing market, that there's growing interest, that people are getting into it. I think that part's awesome, and who knows what comes out of it. You know what I mean? And I love competition. It fires me up. I'm an Aries, man. I do it for fun, but I love to compete. You know, I love a good fight, and so it's fun for me. It's fun for us. It gets us all pumped up. We're going to focus in on what we do. And you know, we're leading the race, and when you're leading the race, rarely do you look back, man. You just keep running forward and going full pace. And I would say, I would caution people, you know, in the market out there in general too. It's not just eFoils, right? There's like a whole world of electric components and new stuff coming out there. It's like, hey, you got to be a little careful on that first purchase, right? Mm-hmm. I was looking at an electric truck I saw the GMC, the Hummer, the H3. And I go, well, that looks cool. It looks like a new component on every single one of the components on that truck looks brand new. I'm like, I'll wait for version 3. Yeah. You know, I got to wait a little bit.
You've seen Tesla and everything that they've gone through with iterations and everything. So you know it takes time.
You know it takes time. And and I don't care who you are. I don't care how big your company is. I don't care where you're coming from. Like experience is just something that can't be replaced, you know, and like you have to do it right, and you have to learn your lessons to come out with a good product. So, yeah, when somebody promises you the moon and the stars and you know all in this perfect package price, I'd think twice. And you know, you don't want to buy something. Even I don't care if it's $5,000 or whatever the price is. You don't want to buy something that just falls apart and then you don't get customer support. and then there's no value in it for resale, or it's like, that's a bad purchase.
No.
You know, so we try to be, we're fair with our customers, and like, I know maybe on the price tag some people don't agree with it, but man, let me tell you, that's what it costs. That's what it costs to build a good product, to service a customer properly, and to continue to innovate and grow your company. Everything we make in this company keeps going back into new innovation and further growth. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's a well-balanced business, you know, that allows us to be around to continue to support our customer base in the future.
Yeah, I can see Lyft being around for a long time. And every time we meet up with Nick, he's giving us little teasers on what he's working on. So yeah, I can only imagine where you guys will be in a decade from now. I'm super excited. The other thing that Lyft has is you guys have a huge community of affiliates, right? And this is something that these other companies don't even have. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about the affiliates, because you guys are up to over 300 affiliates. And what I mean by affiliates is places you can go to get a lesson, to try the boards firsthand. You know, everyone's like certified. They basically have the board. They have, you know, a certain number of boards and wings available to make it easy for anyone to learn. So Nick, tell me a little bit more about how big this community's grown of affiliates.
Oh yeah, it's getting out there. It's pretty awesome. And you know, the affiliate program was something that we came up with. It was a custom approach to our product and the way that we were going to sell. So we could have, I guess we could have looked at traditional like distribution models and sales models in the market for other product, but we were like, nah, it doesn't work. And really the foundation of it is that we as athletes and people that have been involved in different sports, you know, when they were created, as they rose, as they fell, you know, we know that you have to create a really good first experience for the customer, for people. You have to allow them to try it. You have to teach them appropriately. You have to get them out on the water. And what's cool about our affiliate program is that we partnered up with these groups of people that are, you know, they have small businesses of getting people out on the water and teaching them how to ride an eFoil and what it's all about the right way the first time. And they are 100% dedicated to just that. It's not like, oh, I can take you through for a kayak tour over here, and you know, or maybe like a whale watching tour over here, and yeah, or we can, I don't know, ride some eFoils. No, they're all about riding eFoils. That is what they do. That's what they're doing all day long. And they're taking people out and they're showing them the right way, and they're guiding them through the product and the process, so that, you know, for us, it's not like, hey, go out and buy an eFoil. It's, hey, go out and try an eFoil. Go ride a lift. Check out all the affiliates. We're trying to create these different affiliate programs so that like people in their local community can go out and see for themselves, because they still might look at the eFoil and go, oh, that's amazing, but it's a little, I don't know, it's too advanced for me. Well, it's not, right? Go try it. Go take a lesson with one of our affiliates, and you're probably going to get hooked, you know.
You're definitely going to get hooked.
Yeah. Heads up.
Yeah. And also heads up for sure. You're going to probably end up buying one. Or if you're not going to buy one right away, you're going to add it into your list of things to get soon or later, but you're going to end up getting one. The other thing we warn people is, if you buy one eFoil, get ready to potentially buy a second one, because the only thing that's better than riding an eFoil is riding with other people. Yeah. You know, friends, family, you know, girlfriend, wife, father, grandmother, grandfather. I mean,
it's good to share the love. And that's what's cool too about the affiliate program as well, is like, man, our business has expanded so far beyond just our headquarters here in Puerto Rico. All the affiliates that we brought on, they're part of the Lyft family. We have like a very intimate relationship with those people, and it's been really cool too, because I've had so many people that were maybe working a job that they just didn't like, or that they didn't love. They just were out of place, and they were a little hesitant to jump in and become an affiliate. Like, oh, can I really do this? And then, man, next thing you know, they've got their fleet of boards, and they are booked solid, getting people out on the water all day long, every day. And they come back and they're just like, this is amazing. I love this. I've never been so happy. I love this business. And they're taking out, you know, a lot of them will be like hooking up with like superstars or movie actors or big business people, or like getting interviews from big newspapers and stuff. And they're just like, this is incredible, you know? So like, it's fun to be part of like a growing industry and a growing team. It's fun to be on the winning team, and like, so all these guys coming in are like part of that, and just the energy is just like exponential. So it's pretty cool. I like the way that it's tracking. It was kind of a unique idea to start, and it's working. It's working.
Yeah, and it translates to more sales because when people try it, they're hooked, right? And so tell me a little bit real quick what it takes to become an affiliate. So if someone's listening to this podcast and they're thinking, okay, yeah, I'm in a great location. I live on a lake, or I live next to the water, and I wrote an eFoil, and I want to do this. Like, what does it take?
If you are in a location with a body of water that's great, it's a beautiful place, and it's great for foiling, or people like to get on the water, and you don't see any like eFoils in your area, let me tell you that there is an opportunity there. And we basically have reps throughout the different regions of the world that help manage our affiliates, and they get them jump started into business. But it's a really small, reasonable investment into the proper equipment to have, and we have all the training materials to make sure that they're operating properly and safely. And so we have it considered to be a bit of a franchise, in a way that's unique to each area. But like, hey, we got all the tools developed for these people to hit the ground running. And essentially they can do just that. They can get involved, they can do some training, they can get the product, they get familiar with it, and they can hit the ground running and start their own business, and be masters of their own time, and get people out on the water and get them stoked, get them excited. Like, what a better way to spend your days than like, making people happy out in that environment. So that's really what it is. I mean, it's a contact to lift, and talking with our guys, with our reps, and away you go.
Yeah. So you guys make it really easy. Let's talk a little bit about the other community, right? All the riders. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of riders now. You guys have sold a lot of boards, and there's a lot of affiliates. So people are now knowing what these are. So a few years ago when we got ours, people looked at it and they said, what in the world is that? How does it work? It's magic. Now you're riding it and people come up to you, hey, is that a Lift eFoil? Like, yes, it is. And so people know what it is. And now there's so many riders out there. And what's amazing is that, and the people that are getting lessons from these affiliates, sometimes they're people that have never done any board sports, never surfed, right? They look at it and they say, I kind of want to try that. And we've seen it firsthand from friends and family, and also eFoil New Hampshire, right? They were telling us as well, some of the riders are people that have never been, on a surfboard at all. And they're eFoiling, right? So it's amazing how it's kind of catapulted the world of foiling in general, right? And it's almost like for example, Mark Zuckerberg. All right, let's talk about Zuck for a little bit, because Zuck started on an eFoil, right?
Yeah, I believe he did.
He started on an eFoil,
but he's biggest into the surf foils. So as far as I understand, I mean, he's got a lot of our product. He's really into foiling. I think he really enjoys it. I don't know him personally, but I can tell you that he really enjoys foiling. He's really into it, and he loves surfing. So I believe he spent some time out in Hawaii. I know, people out there that are watching him put in the hours. He's become quite good at it, actually. I will give credit where credit is due, and he's a good athlete, the guy, And it's kind of cool, actually. Like, so it's like, man, you just have this big variety of people getting into the sport, from these titans of business to, the local surf crowd, your local surf dude. But it's one community out on the water, and that's what I really like about it too. It just kind of levels the playing field in the world. We have so much like difference in social classes, but it just brings everybody together in one common love for water sports. So we do have a big variety, and talking about Zuckerberg, he's downwinding. He's riding open ocean swells. He's towing into some bigger surf. He's ripping it up on the eFoils. He's into it.
Yeah, and there was some confusion. We saw a lot of news articles and confusion about what he was riding, because in the first couple videos that he was caught on, a board, and it was an eFoil, right? So there was a bunch of articles written about that. And then 4th of July, he's riding, behind some wake of a boat, and he's got the American flag, and everyone again was saying he's riding an eFoil, and he's not. He's riding a non-motorized, foil, also by Lift. And so there's a clear distinction between the motorized eFoil and the non-motorized foils, which have been around for a while. You guys started your business originally on those, and we had talked about that in the first podcast around, the differences. But we also made a video as well to really clear, the water around the differences between the two. But it also seems like foiling has just grown, a bunch. And now we're seeing wing foils, right? Yep. This is like a big sport.
Yeah.
Right. And it's getting really popular. So let's talk a little bit about that and all the different sports within foiling that are coming out now. It's awesome.
It's hard to keep track of it. But the thing is, like, hydrofoils in general on the water, whether you're on a surfboard or a watercraft, like a boat or something, it expands the realm of what's possible out on the water. So, like, we've grown up with this narrow vision of like what we do on the water and what tools we use to access that. And with the hydrofoil, that vision just expands and widens dramatically. The foils are like, it's, because it is part gliding on the water, but it's flying, right? So you're flying over the water. So like if you look at these like little flying devices, hovercrafts, you go, ooh, that's what we're doing. We're hovercraft, and what you're looking at is just different size crafts and different power sources. So the sail, the wing might be one power source. Your electric, your battery and your electric motor might be another power source. A wave, an open ocean swell is another power source to go out and fly. And so it's pretty cool. And it's not like somebody goes out and flies on one of these things and go, oh, I didn't like that flying feeling. It's awesome. It's like, it's what every human being dreams of, or at least I do. I don't know. Since I was a kid, I want to fly, and I think that's the kind of the magic that people are tapping into, and it's taking over on all sorts of different sports. I mean, again, you look at the America's Cup sailing, which is, the most prestigious kind of sailboat racing, hydrofoils and continuous hydrofoil development. You're seeing new electric boats on hydrofoils, really interesting, really smooth. I'm sure you're not going to want to get out on a Boston whaler again and just go smashing against the surf after you've been flying above it. And in the world of surfing, man, super exciting. I mean, we probably spoke about it last time, but I've been riding open ocean swells for miles and miles and miles down the coast, and it is just so awesome. Yeah. It's so awesome. It's so free. You feel like a bird. Then you're literally like the birds are hanging out, flying with you. They're like on your wingtip. You're just like, this is so cool.
You feel like a bird.
It's incredible, man. It's incredible.
There's some really talented riders out there. I mean, Kai Lenny, but there's also Jack, right?
Dude, it is up and coming. I can't even keep track of these youngsters anymore. And that's the fun part too, is like they're doing some pretty wild stuff. So like the sport it's still young, and they're going to take it to new levels. You have so much speed and power, they'll probably end up jumping them. They're already jumping them and flipping them and whatnot, but it might look like the snowboarding pro tour, where you're out like open ocean surfing and just flipping off these swells and doing 360s and coming back in and high-fiving a whale, and like, you keep going. I don't know. It's a pretty epic sport that just totally broadens like the horizons of what is surfing.
Yeah. And when you combine some of the like motorized, like eFoil plus,
absolutely,
you're towing people into waves that with your eFoil. Now you can start doing it in places where you wouldn't even be able to bring a jet ski.
Oh, we do that all the time. It's probably one of my top uses. I recognize it as it's a pretty niche for people, but I use my eFoil all the time to tow my friends, my girl. Like, I take her out surfing all the time. I'll whip you into a couple waves, no big deal. I take my nephew or my nephews and be like, all right, come on, don't be lazy. I'll whip you into a couple, and like throw them in. It's really good, like, utility of that watercraft, and we tow each other in too on the surf foils. It's super fun.
No, it's amazing. There's endless possibilities out there, and it's clear that Lift is on the forefront of a lot of this, both on the motorized and non-motorized, and we'll continue to see the growth. And we're super excited to be a part of it. And again, thanks, Nick, for having us here and being part of the family and being able to show us everything you're working on, and also being able to let us share it with the world, with the community. It's been awesome. We're looking forward to all the other innovations that you guys are working on. I'm sure there'll be more.
Oh, yeah.
If anyone's interested, make sure to check out our other content. We're going to be reviewing all of these new components on our channel. So you get to see, for all of those of you who already have Lift products, we're going to be reviewing the Elite package and everything it has to offer. So be sure to check out our other content if you're interested in Lift. Other than that, thanks again, Nick.
Yeah,
and we're looking forward to the future of foiling.
We got a lot of fun stuff coming your way.
Oh, I bet you do.
Oh, yeah. Heads up. It's coming.